Hi everyone and welcome to the studio today. You're in sunny Geraldton, Western Australia, and it's a beautiful day here, so a lovely day for creating. Before we start looking at our project and what our tutorial entails, I just want to say a really big thanks for joining me. Look, without your support, I wouldn't be able to continue to do this. So I'm really happy you're here, and I have to say a very big thank you. Okay, let's have a look at what we're going to be doing today. So I'm actually going to give you complete instructions on how to make the little vessel necklace. So the vessel necklace has got a beautiful cracked surface to it, which I'm going to show you how to create. And I also give you instructions on how to make up the entire piece. So that includes putting all the beads together, balancing it all out, etc., etc. So that's the project for today. And before we start the project, I'm actually going to have a little bit of a play around with our product that we're going to be using today. So I'm working with Ranger Distress Crackle paint. Now, this is something I've just been playing around with for about the last 6 months or so. And I've got one tub here, which is very old, that is almost finished, and one that I haven't even opened yet. So before we start any experimenting, any playing around with this paint, let's open it up and let's have a look at what's inside. Now, I have to tell you right at the very beginning that this product tends to crystallize around the edges. So you do need to be very careful when opening, because if you're opening on top of clay or you've got something precious underneath, you may end up getting some of this product in your clay or where you don't want it to be. So that's not a good thing. All right, so this one is almost empty. So I'm just going to show you, and you can see it's actually gone very, very thick. It's clear and it's very thick. Now, hopefully when I open the new one, it's going to look quite different. Oh, now I can't open the new one, so just bear with me. So now when we open the new container, oh, I can see already that the consistency is quite different. So I'm actually picking this up with the skewer and it's dropping back into the container. So I have found that leaving the lid off the container is not a good thing, because you end up with it crystallizing around the top and it does go thick. And I have found, I think Pearlex varnish is a similar product that works similar. Sorry, you do have that problem that it does dry and tend to go thick when it's introduced to air. So my very first tip when using this product would be to make sure the lid is always on the container when it's not in use. All right, let's just sort out our workspace and we will get started on some experimenting. Actually, before we do that, I'll just let you know, I'm working with the Clear Rock Candy. So this is clear. This comes in colors as well, and you can find all the information about this Crackle paint on Ranger website. So I'm not going to bother going into all of that information now, because it's all available on the website and everything you need to know is there. I'm just going to start playing with it. So let's get sorted and then we'll have a play. The first thing I'm going to try is just a little bit of experimenting, as I mentioned. I've got some clay set up on my tile here, and I've got a sheet of paper ready for my clay to go onto. So you can see here I'm going to go a thick, I've got Kato thick setting on the pasta machine. I've got a thin setting on the pasta machine. I'm going to work over some pan pastels and I'm going to do some stripes. So let's get started. Now, my Distress Crackle paint, I'm just opening away from my clay. My Distress Crackle paint has instructions on it that says to shake well prior to use. So I've already done that and I've let it rest for about 5 minutes to hopefully release all the air bubbles. So you can see I've just picked up some on my brush, and I'm simply just going to brush over the surface of the clay. So I've got raw clay, and I'm not really bothering if I don't have a neat finish on this. I'm just kind of brushing it over the surface. I'm going to do exactly the same on the thin sheet, and I'm just doing a thick sheet and a thin sheet just so I can see if there's any difference with how the clay reacts underneath. So that's purely my reason for doing this. All right, the next one down in this bottom corner, I was going to do some stripes. So I'm simply going to run my paintbrush just to create some stripes on the surface. You could do a thinner paintbrush. You don't have to do stripes. You could do something else. I just wanted to see if I can get like a nice crackle effect and then have, you know, clean clay in between. I know it's really difficult to see on top of the white, but I will show you in a moment. Now, I'm going to coat this with pan pastel, and I wanted you to see that process so you don't say, but I missed it, Deb, you didn't show me what you were doing. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm just going to do it really quickly. I've just got a sponge, some pan pastels, and I'm just going to build up some colours on here. So we'll just go a base to start with. I love the way pan pastels work with polymer clay. We've got beautiful colours here. So let's just work. And you notice I'm using the same brush. I don't really, sponge. Not really stressed if I get colours mixed up because I'm kind of mixing the colours anyway. So we'll just work over and build up, make it nice and rich. You can see these colours are really quite intense. Okay, that might do us just for, you know, so you can understand how this product works on top of a coloured surface. If there is any difference, there possibly might not be. All right, I've just washed my brush out. I'm opening my clear rock candy away from my workspace, and we're just going to coat this piece as well. Okay, just get a good coating on my brush. You might be able to see it a bit easier on the coloured clay. I will actually pick this up so that you can see, I'll pick the tile up so that you can perhaps see the coatings on here, hopefully. All right, remember to put the lid on. We don't want our beautiful product drying out. All right, these are my first sample pieces, and I can actually see on the Kato clay, my product is pulling away from certain aspects of the clay, from certain areas. So I'm going to just use my finger to run it back into place. I don't think it will do that on this one. In saying that, it has a little bit. I thought it may not have because we had put a surface treatment on the clay. I'm not going to do it to this one. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Now, I'm not sure if you can see any of this there. You might be able to see this one here, perhaps. Let's get it a bit closer. And you might be able to see how it's pulled away from the edges slightly. So it did the same on this one, but I've just, as I said, moved it around on the surface, and it's kind of filled in nicely now. And this is it's actually quite warm in my studio here today, so this is drying quite quickly. I possibly will now put this in the sunshine to dry. Otherwise, you can just leave it to dry naturally. I'm going to continue to check as it's drying whether this is pulling away, and I may just go like that again, or I may not. So I just want you to be aware that that is what I'm going to do. While I'm waiting for my veneers to dry, I've just created a couple of beads here, very quick creations here. I've just got a round black one, no texture, just Kato clay black with a skewer in the middle. This one is just some dirty white. And I've just added some texture into it as well, just, you know, a little bit of interest. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to coat these with a complete layer of the clear rock candy. So I'm not doing any stripes or fancy bits. I'm just gonna coat the entire piece in the clear rock candy. I might make sure I've got it in all the little recessed bits. See if that makes a difference. And while I'm saying that, I'm thinking that there's so many other things you could do, variations on how you can use this product. Lots of different ways and variations. All right, we've got a nice coating there. Again, if I see this start to pull away, I will, you know, run the paintbrush over it again or use my finger to coat over it. I'm just going to sit that into a tin can that I've got here so that it will dry standing upright and I don't lean it down onto anything. And this one I'm just going to coat, and you can see because I manipulated the bead afterwards, it's rolling around on the skewer. So the idea is put the skewer in and don't move it, because then you end up with your bead nice and firm inside. Sorry, the skewer nice and firm inside your bead. It just makes it that much easier to coat, but we'll get there. We'll just do it like this, kind of randomly. Near enough's good enough, hey? Sorry about that. All right, there's a coating on this one. So we're going to leave that to dry as well. And again, if I see bits kind of bead up on itself here, we'll just keep running over the surface with my finger or a paintbrush. So I am going to keep an eye on these during the drying process. All right, let's let those dry and we will see if our veneers are dry now. The veneers and beads aren't quite ready. The crackle is still going and I can't wait to show you. Honestly, they're turning out really beautiful. But while we're still waiting for those, we're going to work in the next experiment. And this is just a little one. We already did the pan pastel on the veneer. I'm just going to try working with some different product on the surface of just some really rough made beads. So I've got some dirty white. I'm going to use an acrylic paint. This is a heavy bodied acrylic paint and I'm simply going to put it onto my raw clay and brush it around like this. And I'm just doing this experiment so that you can see how this product reacts and works on the surface of other products. Okay, so we've got acrylic paint. Just going to sit that one up to dry. The next one we've got, I'm working with, I'll just wipe that one off there. I'm going to work with a metallic paint now, and this is the Lumières, which are so beautiful. They do need a good shake, which I've already done. And I'm going to work this one onto some black clay. So we'll just run this one around. So this one is not as thick as the first paint. The first paint was iron lac. It's a heavy bodied acrylic. And this one is not as thick. So we're just going to brush it on sparingly like this. And we'll let that one sit up there to dry as well. So the next one I've got, now I've got alcohol inks, and they were actually meant to go on the white bead, but I've already put acrylic paint on that. So I'm going to make another white bead and we'll use the alcohol inks on them. But I know that I'm going to be able to use mica powder on black clay. So I'm just going to see if I can grab some with my gloved finger. I may not be able to do it too well, but it's kind of going okay. So we'll just do it the way we're going here. So just coat your black bead with mica powder. I'm just keeping mine really simple. I'm doing one colour. Okay, put it on, rub off the excess. Okay. And let's now try using some alcohol ink on our white bead. Just need to get these lids off. Just be careful where all that stuff lands, because if that gets in your clay, it will stain your clay, which can actually be quite beautiful. Just get the other lid off as well. All right, I'm simply going to drip onto the surface of raw clay, and we're just going to roll it around and let it blend in together. So this is quite an easy one, and we'll just go like this. No right or wrong here, really. Okay, so let's put a little bit more brown in there. Roll that around. You'll notice that my beads aren't round. I like to create very organic looking round beads because I'm hopeless at very round beads. So I think if I make them obviously not round, it looks like they were meant to be that. And I'm calling my white a dirty white, and it's dirty white because I didn't wash my hands before I conditioned the white. So it became a dirty white. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I've covered the surface anyway. What I'm going to do, I've got this bead here anyway. Let's use the black on this, and then we'll do a comparison with the white and the black to see the difference. We may as well. While we had the bead there, let's not waste it. All right, so we've now got a black bead with the heavy-bodied acrylic, and we have a white bead as well. So I will let all of this dry for a bit, and then I'm going to coat the surface, which I'm not going to demonstrate because you've already seen me do that with the previous black bead. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to coat the surface of these 5 beads with the Clear Rock Candy Crackle Distress Paint, which is so beautiful. And we'll see what the outcome is at the end of it once they're dry. Okay, I've waited roughly an hour and a half for everything to dry completely. And I've got some really interesting things to show you. Now, I know that you can't see anything on these at all. Please don't worry. I'm going to pick this one up and see if I can show you the surface of the clay to see if you can see that it's crackled. I'm going to do something to this in a minute so that you'll see the crackle anyway. I know it's really difficult to see, but trust me, there is an amazing crackle on the surface of that piece. This one's a bit easier to see because this is the pan pastel. So you can see I had white clay underneath, coloured with pan pastel, and the Clear Rock Candy has actually pulled the clay away, the surface of the clay, to reveal the pattern or the colour of the clay underneath. So if I had have used a black clay, for example this one, which had the mica powder on the surface, you'll notice that the surface has been pulled away and it reveals the black clay underneath. Let's show these two as the example. This was the white with acrylic paint and this was black with acrylic paint. So you can just see the difference between the two there. This is quite easy to see the clay, the colour of the clay underneath. So that is something really important to keep in mind. Now let's have a bit of a look. So we'll just check out our experiments and see how they went. There's actually no difference in the surface crackle between the thick clay and the thin clay. So that really didn't make much difference whatsoever. I can see my crackle stripes. Again, not sure if you can see them. I hope you can. But I'm going to do something to this in a minute so that we'll be able to see it a bit better. So again, it's very hard to see on this piece, but I can see that there's some really fine cracks on the surface of this. This ended up being quite a thin layer of the clear rock candies, so my cracks are actually quite fine. The black one again is very hard to see, but I'm going to do something to this one so that we'll be able to see those cracks. So again, I'm quite happy with the surface of these. Some of them I probably wouldn't do again, but it was actually just nice to see the process and understand how the product works on the surface of different products. All right, I'm going to pull these out of the way and I'm going to concentrate on my thick layer of clay. So let's get this one, pull it out of the way, and I'm going to bring in, sorry, I just need my hands this way now. I'm going to bring in this tile and I've got some alcohol ink. So I'm going to drop some alcohol ink on the surface of the clay and I want you to watch what happens. It actually starts to creep through the cracks, which is quite beautiful. So I'm just going to add some other colours here. And we'll put a bit of brown in there, see what happens to that. Bit of a bubble there, we'll let that go. So what I'm going to do, I don't have a glove on, so I'm just going to use my finger. So you could leave it like that. How cool does that look? Let me get that one up a bit closer so you can see it. And it's really quite a beautiful finish, just like that. I think what I might do, I might actually blend the colours around, just move them around like this. And you can get a nice finish like this if you want to. If I wanted to again, I could pull in a baby wipe and clear off some of the surface. So that's something for us to think about. It's great to do a white bead and put the clear rock candy on, but then you need to be able to show up those cracks. So let's work on here and let's drip this around. It's just so pretty, isn't it? I love it. So let's very carefully get some yellow and pull in, pull in here as well. So I'm trying to manipulate around my phone. Pull some yellow in here. And I'm just going to blend it around a little. And look, I'm just dropping straight out of the bottle. You don't have to do that. You could get a brush and use a brush. You could perhaps dab it just in certain places if you wanted to, but you know, I'm just doing it this way. Just for the ease of doing the video today. Let's just put a little bit of this on and we'll just move it around because I kind of don't like some of the solid areas too much, and I might pull back some of this with a baby wipe and we'll see what happens to that. So again, this is all just a play, an experiment to see how the product works and to understand you know, how it reacts with different products. You know, just different ways of using the clear rock candy. It is so much fun. I've just got some white alcohol ink now, which I thought I would just show you quickly if I can get the lid off. And I'm going to put the white alcohol ink on the black bead, which has got beautiful crackles all over it. And we'll just see what happens to this one. All right, and again, I'm just going to use my finger, which has got alcohol ink on it already. I'm such a grub sometimes. I didn't even think about that, but you know what? That's okay. All right, so I've coated that one, And let's just grab a baby wipe and pull that off the surface. I may need to bring in some isopropyl alcohol here because I might not be able to pull off too much just with a baby wipe. I might need something else a little bit extra. But you can see just by doing that, I'm removing a little bit of the alcohol ink. I'm just being really careful because I have a raw clay bead in my hand. So what's actually happening here, which I should say I have explained quite a bit in the PDF, and this is what's happening here, is I'm actually managing to remove some of the clear rock candy in certain sections. So it will peel off when it's really nice and dry. Just see if I can get it. It will peel off the surface of your clay. So you can specifically choose to peel this product off in certain areas to create a more mosaic effect, which is quite beautiful. I do have some images towards the end of the video where I explain some of this process in a little bit more detail. But you can see just by working really carefully, and I won't keep you too much longer on this one, but just by working carefully, I've kind of created a few areas of interest, which is quite nice. And yeah, I do like that little process. All right, but rather than go on with that for too much longer, because I think you understand that one, I'm going to pull in this one. Let's go the Kato Thin. Sorry, I'm just going to move everything while I've got you here. We'll pull it into on the tile, and I'm going to grab maybe some chalk pastel to shave onto the surface, and we'll see what happens with that. So just grab 1 or 2 colours of chalk pastel. I'm not sure that this is going to actually do anything because the clear rock candy is kind of acting as a bit of a resist on my clay, but we'll see. We might just use our fingers or grab our sponge. Ah, interesting. So it actually embeds itself into the cracks, which is really cool. Let's get this colour again. I like this one. And a little bit more brown. All right, so we'll just rub this around further. And 2 completely different looks by simply applying 2 different products. So I hope you can see that nicely in the camera shot there. But this one's turned out really nice. The last veneer I'm going to work on, it was the veneer that I used the paintbrush to create the stripes of Crackle on here. So let's have a look. You'll notice I've got some foils here, my favourite things to use. Let's have a look and see if we can see this sheet of clay. So we actually have raw clay, and then we have some clear rock candy on this piece as well. So what I'm going to do, because I understand that foils attach themselves to raw clay, I'm going to see if I can foil the surface of this clay, and my clear rock candy is actually going to act as a resist. So I'm simply going to press down to get a nice coverage and hopefully no air bubbles in here. And then you will go ahead and burnish your foils onto the surface of the clay however you normally do it. You can use a burnishing tool, you can use a credit card or a room key for a hotel, whatever you like to use, and then you simply burnish the way that you normally do. This is the way that I normally do it. Now I'm using Lisa Pavelka foils here, and I know that this foil burnishes really well onto the surface of polymer clay. So hopefully I'll get a good look in the end. All right, let's see if we're done. Rip. And we can see that we have a beautiful coating of foil where we didn't have any of the clear rock candy. So that's very cool. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull in some of my alcohol inks. And I don't actually mind if alcohol inks go on the surface of my foils because they do look quite beautiful. So I'm just going to cover my clay in alcohol ink. And then I might pull back some of it with a baby wipe, but hopefully I'll be able to see in some of the areas where I've got a really fine crackle. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at this point. Actually, we might pull in a little bit of the darker one and see if that highlights those crackles a bit better. Sometimes the lighter colours you can't see too well. And we'll just spread it along. Yeah, that seems to work a bit nicer. We'll just... There we go. Okay. Anyway, they are all just experimental veneers so that we kind of get a bit of an understanding on how this product works and what we can do with it. All right, let's pull in all our veneers that we played with. I'm just going to remove this one very carefully from the work surface and we'll pop it onto our sheet over here. Now, it's great that these are actually still in flat pieces. You can do all sorts of things with your veneers just in this state. You can create flat pieces, you can curve the thinner ones around three-dimensional pieces, and this product will stay quite beautiful. Although I do know, as I pointed out with this bead here, that you can actually deliberately pick the surface and peel this product away from the surface. And I have explained that, as I said, further in detail in your PDF that you received with your download link. So I think that is actually going to do us for experimenting today with this product. I have quite a good understanding now of how the product works and what different products I can use to mix and match with this to get a look that I kind of really like. So stay tuned. The next part of the video is actually going to be creating, and because of wonders of videos, I'm going to be creating this. So stay tuned. This is next up. I'm going to show you now how to create our gorgeous little pot. So I'm starting with some clay, which is just run through a medium thin setting of the pasta machine. I'm using Primo and it's Ecru. So I'm simply cutting a bevel edge, and you can see I have a very long knitting needle, and I'm going to use the knitting needle to wrap my clay around. The reason I cut a bevel edge is just so it fits a little bit nicer around the skewer, and I don't have a sharp edge I need to, you know, kind of a bulky edge I need to wrap up and around. So I also cut a bevel edge away from me, and the bevel edge makes it easier to join this seam together. So I pretty much have just created a great big fat tube bead. All right, let's just smooth that seam off a little bit, and I'm going to get my favorite Christy Friesen tool in here to help me do this. And I want to make it nice and smooth prior to starting. That way I don't have to worry about my seam. Okay. So, sorry for bumping the camera there. All right, so we have a nice smooth seam now, and I'm going to cut off the top and the bottom. Okay, I'll simply peel that away, and let's cut off the bottom. Let's go about this length here. And you know, the size that you make this is completely your choice. So you can see how big mine is. It's probably about a 1.2 millimeter diameter by, I have no idea how long that is, maybe about 8 centimeters, maybe 9, something like that. Anyway, you will work out the size that you want. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to roll this on the work surface, and I'm going to roll applying pressure to one end only. And this is going to increase the thread hole this end, as you can see, and not so much this end. So I'm just going to continue increasing the thread hole, working this way, just applying pressure, as much pressure as I can, and you can see it's getting even bigger. Let's give it a good roll around. So it works quite easily. If I find this area getting a little bit too big, I'm simply going to compress it. Now, I'm not going to stress about my little pot being so perfect. I don't really want a perfect pot. I think I like them a little bit imperfect. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm really just guiding this end here, but applying pressure this end. And the more I do it, the more I end up with this shape, which is exactly what we want. And I think I'm going to perhaps leave that right there. I'm going to neaten this top section. Just like this. Christie tool is my favourite tool for neatening. It's because it's got the weight to it. It's really a really nice weight, and it smooths beautifully. Okay, so I'm happy with that. You can tweak it a little bit, you know, if you want to. All right, that's a nice top of my pot. Now, the bottom of my pot, there's a few different ways that you can do this. You can cut a piece out and cut a circle and stick on the bottom. I'm actually just going to compress. I'm using my fingers to press and pinch this bottom section over. So I'm really just closing the bottom. And then I'm going to make it nice and flat. It doesn't actually need to be flat because this is one we're going to wear, so it doesn't need to stand up, so to speak, although this one does. But this is pretty much what we want here. So I'm just going to neaten it up a little. And I quite like that one. I might actually stick my finger in and make this bit a little bit bigger. Okay. I've worked the shape, so I'm really happy with this now. So I'm ready to apply some surface treatment prior to adding my clear rock candy coating. So I'm going to start just by using some gorgeous pan pastel colours, and I'm just going to apply some to the surface randomly with a sponge. And I'm just going to keep it quite simple. I'm just going to apply a couple of different colours to this one. So I'm just working quickly with a sponge, holding my finger inside for a little bit of support, and I'm going to work about halfway down. If you don't have a beautiful smooth coating, do you know what? It doesn't matter. Oh, now my finger's stuck. Okay, don't do that. All right, let's see if we can work it this way. Don't push your finger in as far as what I did. That might work better. All right, so I'm happy with that. Don't need to do too much more because I know I'm going to add some more surface treatments to this after my clear rock candy coating has dried. So I'm going to work into the bottom section now. This is such a beautiful colour. and these pan pastels are so intense. Gosh, they really are quite beautiful. You really don't need much. A little goes a long way is definitely the motto in this case for these. So just blending that darker colour up to meet the lighter colour, as you can see. And again, you know, I'm on the work surface, doesn't really matter. I'm making a mess, but I don't even really care about it. Don't you love that you can do stuff you don't even really care if you make a mess? All right, I am pretty happy with that. We might go just a little bit deeper on this top section. Just cover the ecru a little bit more. Sorry, hope I wasn't out of camera range then. All right, so we've got a nice coating of these colours now. I might just pull in around the top here as well. If you want to drag a little bit into the inside, you can. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to add any of the Crackle medium on this inside section, but if you want to add a little bit of your colour in there to kind of, you know, blend it in, then you can go ahead and do that. And I might add a little bit just to the bottom as well. All right, so this is my pot ready for some clear rock candy coating. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. And I have my clear rock candy here, which I'm going to be very careful to open because remember we have that crystallization that happens. Now this actually had a shake not long ago. All right, and this is where we need to find something. This is probably not the perfect thing. We need to find something to pop into our cone. This might work so that we can hold it to apply the coating. Now I'm actually going to apply a thicker layer to the bottom and I'm going to thin it out to the top. Actually no, this one, sorry, I'm just going to coat the whole thing. So that's what we'll do. I'll do another one where I can do a little bit of a patterning with the medium. So I'm just doing a nice even coating on this one and I'm covering the entire piece. Okay. I'm not doing the bottom and I'm not doing the inside. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I don't think you missed much because I was just painting the surface. So there you go. We have a nice coating on the surface and I'm going to leave this to dry completely. My clear rock candy has dried beautifully on the surface of the clay now. So I'm ready to move on to the next step. But before we do, I just wanted to show you this piece as well. So this one, I have actually used Kato clay. This was Primo Ecru. This one I used Kato clay. I used a white Kato clay and created the little pot bead exactly the same. And I used the pan pastels exactly the same as I did this one. And then I used the clear rock candy. And can you see the difference in the crackle between the two? There's quite a significant amount of difference. So, you know, I'm not saying that Kato is a better clay to use. I just need you to be aware of the difference. What I also did with this one, I dragged the clear rock candy down until it was almost, you know, really quite minimal down in this section here. So you can see I've got, you know, some nice crackle blending down to nothing. So I kind of like this look, and it's just something a little bit different that you can create on your little pots as well. All right, I've got my white and I'm going to start with white. Now you're going to have to play around with this. This is kind of quite random as to what colors you use. So I'm just going to start by applying white to this section, and you can see what's happening. It's starting to run down into the cracks of the piece, which is quite beautiful. So I'm just going to apply a little bit more. And you can see that it's running down into here, which is really lovely. Now, I kind of like the white on here, so I'm going to add a little bit more in various areas. And we're just going to let that do its thing. Or maybe we might stop there. All right, while that's still a bit wet, doesn't matter, I'm going to add some other colours to the surface. And I'm just randomly dropping onto the surface. And let me grab some brown as well. Oops. Okay, we're going to pull in a darker colour now. So we're going to add a brown to the surface of the clay. Again, just let it drop down. That brown is quite beautiful on top of the white. So you can do as much as you want or as little as you want. I might pull in, actually I'll let that dry for a little bit and then I'll add a bit more to the surface. I've waited about half an hour for this to dry well, and I'm going to add some more white to the surface because I want the white to stay really white. And while it was still a little bit in its damp stage, the other colours mixed with it, and I didn't get that beautiful white kind of pop of colour. So that's why I decided to let it dry for a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull some of the colours around. It's picking up these other colours anyway, so that's okay. We'll just keep dropping. That might work better. We'll pull in a bit up here as well. So you can see I'm just randomly applying to the surface of that one. Just looks pretty gorgeous like this as well. But what I'm going to do with this now, I'm actually going to cure this. I'll let it dry completely and I'm going to cure it. And then we've got some more things that we're going to do to this one. My two little pots are nice and dry now, so I can remove them from the handle. And this is the tile that I'm going to cure these on. So it's just a normal ceramic tile, and I've just covered it with some baking paper so that I don't get the shiny spots on the back of these pieces. This one, not quite dry, but almost. Now, I added some more white to the surface of this, but look what happened. It just blended into the black, but you know, that's okay. But look how awesome the black looks down in this section. So I was kind of happy, thought I would leave it just like this. So I'm removing the forms that were holding these together. Now, normally I would cure this just like this, but if you have done one that you're a little bit concerned that perhaps your wall of your pot is a little bit on the thin side, we can just simply roll something like this up and pop it into the middle of our pot, and that's just going to hold it nicely and it won't collapse in the oven. So that's one thing to remember, that if you do create something with a wall that's really quite thin, you may need to support it. All right, so I'll just do this one as well. They're ready to go into the oven. My luscious little pots have finished curing and they're nice and cool. And I have got some delicious crackle on these pieces. I absolutely love them. So there's another step that I'm going to do now, because to me, like, this looks lovely, but it doesn't look as good as what I think it can look. So I'm going to pop that to the side. I've just got some paper towel on my workspace and I have some wet and dry sandpaper here. And I'm going to start with, and I've just got a 360, a 400 and a 600. I'm just going to start with the 600 and I'm just going to cut a little piece off here. And even though it is wet and dry sandpaper, I'm going to do some dry sanding. So I've protected my work surface just with some paper towel, as I said, and we're just going to start sanding. Now, if you have a look at the surface, before we start doing that, some of these little pieces are going to pick off the surface, and that's okay. I have found with the Primo that does happen, and I haven't found it happens as much with the Kato, so keep that in mind. All right, let's just do a little bit of sanding on the surface here, and we'll just see if we can get some nice colours happening. I'll just do one section at a time. And hopefully we can see some nice pieces working in here. I will have to pull in some water because you can see I've got a lot of the colour in the crevices here. So I'm going to pull in some water at some point, but I'm just going to sand a little bit away and just see what sort of look we can achieve. Kind of does create a really nice stained glass look, which I really do like the effect of. And again, all these bits that are cracking off, I really don't care about that because I have a beautiful colour underneath here. Let me just see if I can. Okay, can you have a look at this section right here? So I'm getting beautiful colours in here, and I'm getting, you know, some really nice different colours in each section. So that's what I'm going to do. I won't make you sit through me watching all of the sanding. That would be incredibly boring. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more sanding and neaten it up a little and just get to a point where I'm really happy with the surface of this one. And I'll probably do the same with this one as well and just get some sanding done on the Kato piece as well. There's something I do want to show you during the sanding process that I just want to make point of. And remember how we added the chalk pastel to the surface of this cone bead prior to adding the clear rock candy? And this was a cru clay underneath. So if you look carefully in this section here, you'll see a cru clay and then the colour of the chalk pastel on top, and I've sanded some of that away. So if you peel away some of the bits of this clear rock candy, and this is why I didn't mind it coming off, because I get my crackle area and then I can actually work into certain areas and highlight the pan pastel colours underneath. So I just wanted to point that out. Look at these areas down here. They're quite beautiful because I overlaid different colours of pan pastels on top of each other. So the more I sand away, the more I'm revealing the layers underneath. So that's just a really important thing. You'll notice I'm still in progress with this one. I've still got more sanding to go. But I just wanted to point that one out. That's how we achieve all these beautiful little sections. And you can work into each section differently. Like I might want to sand heavily into this section up the top here. And you can deliberately peel away some of the clear rock candy and work into sanding those areas until you're happy with them. I'll pull this one in as well because I've been doing this one as well while I'm doing all the sanding, and I'm really happy with this. I know that I'm going to be doing a coating of Kato liquid clay on this one, so it's actually going to turn quite glossy and shiny. And you can see just the beautiful little cracks. And look, there's hardly any of the clear rock candy coating left on this one. It's almost sanded off completely. So you could leave it matte if you wanted to, and none of this is going to come off the surface. I finally finished the sanding on these two pieces, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out. So I'm ready now to move on to drilling the holes and to create the liquid clay coating. What I did do after I'd finished the sanding, I gave them all a good wash. I gave them both a wash in water to wash off any of the residue sanding dust, and I've let them dry overnight. The last thing we want is for our pieces to have retained water prior to adding our Kato liquid clay coating. So yes, that's an important point to remember. So I could have created my thread holes prior to curing these pieces, but you know, I'm actually going to just do them after. It's as simple as drilling a hole in them. And I've just got a small drill here, hand drill, because I know that the cord that I'm putting through here is just a fine 1mm cord, so this one is going to be plenty. I'm simply going to drill a hole either side. So as simple as this. Just about there. There we go. You can tell your piece is cured correctly when, if you drill a hole, you don't get large chunks cracking off from the inside. So I'm just going to take this over to this way, see if I can drill it through this way, which it's working. And if they're a little bit wonky, which this one is, it doesn't matter. Now that's pulled off a little bit of that, and again I'm just going to pick it off, because remember, we don't really care about these things in polymer clay. Sometimes it doesn't really make a difference. All right, so my hole is drilled. I'm ready to do my liquid clay coating. So let's move this out of the way and we'll pop this down. I've got my dedicated liquid clay brush. I'm using Kato Clear Liquid Poly Clay, and I have poured a small amount out into a container. This is how I normally use my Kato liquid clay. Poured a small amount into a container. That way I'm using straight from the container and not dipping into a bottle, which I may then contaminate my bottle if I'm, you know, using on a painted surface or whatever, and some of the paint would come off on my brush. So this is how I do it. Now, I've also set up some skewers so that I can just pop them inside, because I need to hold on to my piece while I am coating with Kato liquid clay, and I also need to hold on to it to cure the piece as well. So let's just do a coating of Kato liquid on here. The idea is to create thin coatings rather than a thick layer. Now, at this point in time, when I'm just doing this coating and it's quite boring to watch me, I will tell you that there are so many things to learn about Kato liquid clay and how to get a really good finish, that it's a whole other tutorial. And in actual fact, I have created a tutorial on how to get the best possible finish with Kato liquid clay, and you'll find the tutorial on my website. I've also done a lot of research on this product over the years, and I have done a few blog posts on this as well, because there are always conversations that come up about Kato liquid clay. I don't know how to use it, it's going oily, I can't cure it properly, etc., etc. I'm just picking this little bit off here because I can see that it's going to cause a problem on my surface, and I don't want any lumps and bumps on my surface. So yes, getting back to the tutorial, there are so many things to learn about Kato liquid clay that it's almost impossible to try and tell you everything at this point. All you need to know to get a good coating on these beads is a nice thin layer. We use something to support our piece during the coating process and during the curing process. Now, can you see how thin my layer is? You can see that I have a milky surface, but it's not so thick that I can't see through it. So that's the trick. You should be able to see your clay under the Kato liquid, okay? I'm going to be using an industrial heat gun to cure my Kato liquid clay. This is the heat gun from the hardware store. It has a very high wattage. This is an 1800 watt, and I like to use this to cure my Kato liquid clay. This is my preference. Now this is going to be quite noisy, so just bear with me. I will tell you, while I am doing this process, the heat gun process, I will be rotating my piece, as you'll see me do it anyway. So and please just watch the distance that I keep the heat gun away from the piece. I also must say that this is going to be a loud noise, so if you feel like it, you can turn your volume down while I do this process. Now, my liquid clay is getting to the point where it's partially cured, but you can still see it has a milky surface to it. So I'm going to continue heating, and then I'm going to focus on one area, and you'll see the liquid clay turn shiny. So that will be the next step. I want you to have a look at this piece now. So you'll notice this here, this piece is quite shiny, crystal clear. This piece is still milky. This is cured properly. This is not cured properly. So I'll continue on until the whole piece is nice and crystal clear. It's almost done. I can see there's still a few little milky patches around here. Sorry, that might be better. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn my heat gun onto the high setting. Mine actually just has a 1 and a 2, so I'm going to turn it onto the high setting and blast over the entire piece just to make sure everything is really well cured. Move that one out of the way. Now I still need to hold on to this because of course it's very hot, but if you can see the surface, you'll see that we have a delicious shiny coating which now protects all my surface treatments, and I actually really love the look here. Now comes the exciting part of putting everything together. So my main components are finished. These are the little pots. I'm not going to demonstrate putting both of them together because I'm going to use the same process. Now they have had their 2 coatings of Kato liquid clay, and this one was actually the piece that I had drilled the holes in, but I forgot about it and I covered them over with Kato liquid clay. Again, it doesn't really matter because I'm simply going to drill them out again. I won't do it on this work surface, but I'm simply going to grab my drill and just go back through that hole and re-drill. So I have gathered some components on my work surface today. I've got some recycled jewelry pieces, earrings, necklace. I've got some beautiful, look at this one. These are vintage beads that I found at a secondhand store. I've got some components that have been pulled apart from pieces I've made. I've got a range of jewelry tools and scissors, and I've got some cording that I'm going to use. Also some feathers. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to start putting this one together. So it doesn't have thread holes. So the first thing I'm going to do is drill some thread holes. Then we can get started and, you know, put our pieces together. I'm starting by cutting 2 lengths of cord, and these are going to be the pieces that hang from either side. So my cord has been cut roughly about 60 centimeters in length, and I'm just going to thread it through, and I'm going to simply tie an overhand knot in one side. So this will hold this side together. I'm not going to stress about being symmetrical on either side either. So I'm just going to have the overhand knot there. Let's do the other side. Let's pull this one up. And tie an overhand knot in this one. And there we go. Again, I didn't really worry about measuring too much. You can see that one is longer than the other. Sorry, this loop is longer than this one. I don't really mind about that. All right, so I've pulled in a few smaller beads here, and I'm going to maybe thread in some smaller beads that are going to work nicely together into this section. Maybe I'll tie a knot there. Just so you know, there is no right or wrong here. I'm simply showing you how I do it, and you will take away from that what you will and create your own gorgeous piece. Now I think I'm going to have this long piece in here, which I quite like, and then I'm going to pull in another long piece on the opposite side down here perhaps. So I like that one. This one I might untangle. That's the beauty of this little cord. It's actually 3 cords all stuck together. Let me see if you can see that. And it untangles really beautifully. So I'm going to maybe untangle this one. I might cut it a bit shorter as well. We'll see what I feel like and how I like the look of it. Or I can actually dangle some beads off those 3 if I wanted to. Okay, it's going to want to spike where it wants to spike, but that is fine. I wonder if I might perhaps pop an elephant bead on this side. Actually, we'll put the smaller one here. Okay, that's quite nice. Maybe we'll cut that right off, short. And then let's pull in a couple of these other beads as well. This one, and they're stuck together, so we'll just put this one in. Okay, and we'll just tie that. So it is important to make sure once we do this, we do have a reasonably balanced look to either side. So let's just do that. Move these bits out of the way so we can see what we're doing. And just pull it into space. Okay, so I can see it does look a little bit unbalanced to me. This side is quite long. So what I might do, I think we'll pop another bead in here. Probably not these ones. So let's just pull in a couple of these. We'll just go this one to start off with. And we'll just see what we've got in here. That might be nice. Okay, I do like these ones. Maybe two of those. Let's pull this one in. And maybe let's bring this colour in as well. And again, this is just quite random. You know, if I have to pull this apart, then I will do. Maybe we'll just add one more bead to this one. Perhaps here. And then we'll see how it looks. Let's move these out of the way so we can get a good view of our piece. I think that actually looks okay. I'm quite happy with that. So we're going to tie a knot off this side here. Overhand knot, pull it down so that it's nice and flush with that top bead. And I think I'm happy with that for my top piece. Okay, so now we can get on to pulling in some of these other components for our, to dangle some pieces off. So I've got some of these gorgeous beads. I think I'm going to cut this necklace up. I love these beads. They are just beautiful. I think we might hang one of those down from here, and we might actually pop it. No, maybe we'll use a bit of cord, I think, and we'll put some chain on. We'll put some chain on the other side. So let's cut off a decent length of cord, and let's wrap it around here. We'll wrap it around here to start off with, and we'll tie an overhand knot in here. Oops, a little bit tricky, but we've got it. Okay. So that sits up that way, and that's just going to hang down from there. So let's pop this one through here, and we'll put it down through the bottom piece as well. And what if we could put a bead in the middle there if we wanted to. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I will just pop a bead at the bottom of it. Okay. And we need to look at the length that we want this piece to be. So it's going to hang down here. What if we had it this long? I think that looks a bit silly. So again, you have to kind of work out how it looks balance-wise. Now, I was actually going to put this one this side, but I think I like this one better. Or let's try this one and see whether we do like this one better. Maybe that might sit nicer towards the bead as it hangs down. We could perhaps consider putting one of these either side up the top here. So that might be an option as well. So let's just put this one here. I think I like this one here. And we'll tie an overhand knot to finish. Make sure we've got a good length to it. Go about there. So that's going to hang. No, I want it a bit shorter. So we're going to go up. And I know for some of you, look, just sitting watching me do this is probably quite boring, and I get that. You can fast forward the video, but I get so many people contact me to say, Deb, you know, I really don't know how to put things together. Can you show me how you design a piece, etc., etc. So that's why I'm continuing the video while we're creating this piece, okay? All right, I like this component. I'm just going to leave this, and I'm not cutting any dangles at this stage because I need to cut this, sorry. I'm not cutting any of the dangles because I may want to add some additional beads on. This is an earring component. I'm simply cutting up. And how awesome is it to recycle these components? Not sure whether I want to use the big one or the small one. Let's try the small one as well. So a gorgeous earring, I now have 2 pieces that I can use. And I think I do like the smaller one, and we might actually dangle him on a bit of chain and maybe have him a little bit longer on this side. So let's grab some chain. This is going to be easy to put this guy together. We're going to use a jump ring to start off with, and we're going to attach a jump ring to our chain and to our cord. Close the jump ring, and then it's easy to see how long we want this to be. I think we might, I wonder if we do go a little bit shorter with that one. Yep, maybe let's go shorter. So we'll just kind of cut it there. Grab another jump ring. This is a nice easy process, this little earring, but we've got to make sure we get it on here and close it up again. So there we have this at this point, which is not bad. I quite like that. I feel like this is too similar here, so I may add a longer piece of chain on this side with maybe some other components, or we might go chain on this side with some other components, this side perhaps. Not sure if I'm going to use that. Maybe we might pull in the larger elephant. Oh, that looks nice. I think we might do that. So it's simply a matter of popping that through your component. We're going to create a 90-degree angle there, and we'll just cut this shorter so that we can create our loop. Hold on to your tail of wire when you're cutting it so it doesn't fling everywhere. And I'm simply going to create, I'll put the chain in there, half a loop, put the chain in, and then fold the loop over. We need to make sure that it's nicely joined so that our chain's not going to come out. We'll just fix him up a bit. Okay, so let's have a look at how long we want this chain to be. I'm thinking that we go that little bit longer, so we've got a little bit of difference. We wouldn't want it to finish there. We kind of want to have a little bit of difference just to add that nice balance again. Maybe we'll go 2 more up that way. Okay, let's bring a jump ring in, and this one can go on the jump ring. So chain, and I'm going to slot it in on the outside or the inside. I might put it on the inside of the other component. I'll just get this on, and then we'll have a look at it and see what it's looking like. Move some of these other pieces off our work surface so that we can see. Pull this up, pull this one up. All right, yes, I do like that so far. It's looking really nice. Now, I did bring in a feather, but I'm not sure if I'm going to put, sorry, let me bring these in. These are actually, I'll show you this one. This is, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's meant to be for your hair or for a hat or a fascinator or what. But look at all the gorgeous little feather bits on the end of this. Look, let me just cut this little bit off. And in actual fact, some of these might be quite nice. Not that one because it has a wonky stem. We don't want a wonky stem, do we? So let's find a nice one. We have all these gorgeous little pieces here that might work nicer together than just one big feather. In actual fact, I do like that. So I've got this little cord end here, if you can see that. I'm going to position these in here, and we will close the cord end to capture those little stems. And this is how I would create a feather dangle as well. And just cut those bits off. So I would use these cord ends to create the feather dangle as well. But I think I like that a little bit better. It's just not so, you know, not so full on, for want of a better word. All right, so that one I think is going to be really nice. Maybe we'll attach it to some wire as well. You see, I'm looking at the balance again. Sorry, some chain. I'm looking at how that's going to balance with this component that's already there. So let's grab some chain. And we'll cut a piece of chain, and I can see that I probably need about this much chain. A couple of jump rings. It's quite easy once you start to put components together. And how many amazing things can you find? You know, earrings and necklaces, like all these gorgeous beads. I have a lot of bits and pieces that I've found that I've been able to pull apart and use. And I kind of think, you know, I'm recycling, I'm doing my little bit for the environment. And, you know, I'm using up stuff that, like these elephants, that would otherwise have cost me an absolute fortune somewhere because I know they're really, really old. All right, let's have a look at our piece now. We'll just get it a little bit better here, and we'll lie it down so you can see it. So I actually quite like this. This one I know I'm going to cut short. I don't want it that long. I'm going to cut it short, and I'm going to twirl the edges on that one. And we might just tweak those out as well. So I've got a little bit, and you know what? I'm thinking that maybe I don't need much more on this. Let me just have a look and see what other components we've got here. I have got some nice wire components. Maybe we could go a little bit shorter up here, or maybe we just go, you know, like a nice bead. I don't think this is going to work here. I'm feeling I need to pull in something kind of this colour on this side. Can you see what I'm talking about there? So maybe we could even use some of the cord and pop something kind of this colour here, or maybe even a tube if I have one. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Let's get some cord cut. All right, I think we're going to go maybe in the middle of these two, and we'll have it kind of a little bit balanced in there. Do an overhand knot to attach this piece. Okay, let's get that so we can see it. So that's there, and this is our piece in the middle. I just managed to find some nice long beads, some tube beads in the studio. So I'm going to use, I think this one, no, maybe I'll put this one on. I think the colour kind of suits the piece better. And I think the thread hole is large enough that I can put both of these pieces through. And let's pop this one at the bottom of it. It's not going to fit through there now, so why don't we just pull this one out and we'll just do, I feel like I need something at the end of here though. I feel like I need maybe a black piece. I found some nice little, again, recycled black beads. That I think is just going to, yes, look really nice. So let's do the hole at the end of that one. The one thing you will need to think about when you're putting these knots at the end, if I had used a bead here with a really large thread hole, I'd probably need to do a double knot or put a smaller bead on the end so that it doesn't go through the knot. I'm sure that makes sense to you. All right, so I think I'm happy with the way that is, although that should be down a little bit further. I can see that. So I'm just going to undo this knot and we'll put it down a little bit further. It's a bit tricky with this cord because it wants to all pull apart rather than... Okay, now we've got it. All right, so let's see how far down we want to come with this. There we go. I think that is probably a good length. Okay, so let's work out what we're going to do with all these. I think we'll trim that one up. Let's trim this one up. I'm going to untangle this one. Let's move all our other bits out of the way. And I'm going to unravel that one. Okay. So this one is this way, this one is this way. I think I'm just going to keep this side the way it is because I like this bit here. If I wanted to, I could add some different coloured beads on this section. I don't know that I will though. I think I'll just leave it plain because I think I have a good balance of colours on either side. And let's just have a look at our top section up here. So this is what the top looks like. We'll bring it into view a bit better. And I think I quite like this top section as well. I'm not sure whether maybe I pull one of these in either side up further. Let me just get another one. Love these. Yeah, I'm not sure whether they're suitable there. These may have to just stay for another project. I think I'm actually quite happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, and I know that you can't see this because I'm just going to pull these two cords together and I'm going to tie them in an overhand knot at the top and just make sure that I have them nice and straight and then pull that knot tight. Now, if I wanted to, see how I've got these tails here? I could actually add some beads onto these tails if I wanted to, untangle them and add beads on later. You know, there's a whole range of things. I think for this one, I'm just going to trim them down and unravel them so I have that nice, you know, kind of three cords happening together. I've pulled in just a bead that's perhaps not so raised up from the surface and I've just popped it onto a head pin and I'm going to poke it into the hole here, and I think this for me is going to be much nicer. I'm positioning that so it covers the other hole, so I'm not going to worry about the other hole, and I will cut this down shorter on the inside, and then it's left me enough room to create that little tail to just keep it all in place. Oh, that is so much better. And you know, I think when you're creating pieces and you think, yeah, I'm not really sure about that, but you know, how do I know? You know, trust your own judgment with things, because more often than not, you know what's good when you're looking at it, and sometimes you just need to trust yourself. So I have got all sorts of beads and gorgeousness on here, and I'm really happy with the finished piece. I've finished up both necklaces now, and I have to say I'm really happy with how they've turned out. I'm really loving the crackle look that's been achieved by using the Clear Rock Candy Crackle paint, and I'm really happy with all the components and how they've gone together. I just want to show you this one. I finished this off and just popped some beads on the end of it. So, you know, it's just another way that you can finish these pieces. Now, these are actually going to hang long, so I've done them, you know, on long cords. But, you know, it's really a personal choice as to how you want to finish these pieces. You can think about doing different colorways. What if you put this particular crackle on different shapes, etc. So there's lots and lots of different variations that you can do. This is just the simple project that we've popped in the tutorial today. So I really want to thank you all for joining me. Honestly, your support is so appreciated, and I hope you've enjoyed being in the studio with me over the last few days. It's been a lot of fun, and I will love to see you again sometime in the studio, hopefully for the next tutorial. Thanks everyone. I appreciate you watching. Bye for now.